Welcome everybody. Even if you are all chiropractic patients, there's going to be a lot here for you all to understand and learn about, not just how chiropractic care can help someone who runs, but if you are running or even walking, or if you're ever on your feet, you're going to find out that your spine is definitely pivotal to the function of your body. And you're going to learn how to take care of it, how to make sure we're lining you up, and the things you can do to support yourself when you are putting more miles on your feet, even if it's for Disney for one time a year. We're going to go through all that fun stuff when it comes to running. Hopefully we can address a couple things today. Some of them is, why do people get injured? Why do I pain in my knees and things like that after running, or even the next day? Why do you feel sore? How much does the spine alignment have to do with running? We're going to talk about chiropractors helping with that performance in any sport or really activity we'll talk about, but running specifically tonight. The frequency at which people should probably get checked who are more active, and how can you assess your overall running form? Or how do you know if you're running aligned? And we're going to get into that too. Our bodies were totally designed to move. That's one of the biggest things that we want you to remember, is that your body was born to move. Your body wasn't built with all these joints for you to sit and look at a computer or a phone all day. God designed your body very intelligently and gave you the ability to move, but sometimes we may feel that movement makes us hurt. So running is one of the most natural things to do, right? But it doesn't mean that it's effortless. It doesn't mean that it's simple. It doesn't mean it doesn't put stress on you. Even though we're designed to move, we're also failed to learn how to take care of our bodies from birth, unfortunately, right? From birth, we probably have learned that if it ain't broke, why fix it? If it ain't hurt, why bother? So what we want to help you understand is a couple things. Number one, every time your foot hits the ground, your body has to absorb those forces, roughly 2 to 3 times your body weight. So if your body isn't a shock absorbing machine, then your body is going to be worn out and deteriorated from the extra forces that running could supply to your body. So over the course of a single mile, that's 1,000 repetitions of impact. Isn't that crazy? You think about people who just say, I do this many steps. Running multiplies that. So when you run, you're challenging this amazing system that was built for you, but challenging it is something that is good. But if we're not paying attention to how it's being challenged, we might start to break down and not be able to come back from it. We want you to just be aware of how exercise or running, however you want to think about it, is very beneficial to our bodies in so many ways. But if our bodies are broken in function and compensation and structure, and if our structure is broken, our function will be broken. Injury is very common. I think up to 79% of recreational runners experience running-related injuries. Wow. So you wonder why there's a good foot store who wants to charge you $1,600 for a pair of orthotics and shoes, because they know the market. And pretty much if you run, you're going to hurt 80% of you. And most of the time, it wasn't just one, bad run. It's that caused the injury. It's typically a pattern that's, built up over time. And that's what we're trying to understand. You develop patterns. Running is just going to express that pattern more quickly and show more of that dysfunction. What's the kinetic chain? It might not mean anything to you. We can understand a chain. Say, okay, well, if I move this part of the chain, it moves this part of the chain. And there's no way that affecting one kink in the chain doesn't affect all the pieces to some degree. That's the simplest way to understand the kinetic chain is your movement chain. It's how our body was put together, and that basically your big toe is connected to your occipital muscles all the way at the back of your head. And there's books written, I think it was called Fascial Planes. I want to say it was an old one that I used to hear about. I don't know what in new school what they talk about. But basically there's research showing how connected our bodies are by fascial and basically overlap of muscles and I would say connective tissue. So if you have a little bit of tension, if your big toe doesn't extend and flex as well as it should, it could start to affect your Achilles tendon, and your Achilles tendon could start to affect your hip, and your hip could start to affect your spine, and so on and so forth. So there's no surprise that if you're running, that kinetic chain is getting challenged. And if there's any kink in that chain that isn't moving properly or functioning in a smooth motion, then it restricts and affects other ones, so they have to work more, harder or more intensely. The key is nothing moves in isolation here. That when you run, your body operates as this chain, this link, and the link system is where each of the segments affects the next. And your spine is kind of one big chain too, right? So those segments can be affected too. Your foot strike influences your knee angle. Your knee angle is going to affect your hip position. Your hip position is going to impact your pelvis. Your pelvis is going to affect and influence your lumbar spine. I think we've all heard this song, right? The ankle bones are connected to the knee bone. We learn this, but we forget about this. And when you get hurt, what's crazy, right, is we start just focusing on the bone and not the chain and what caused it. So most people, I'd say anyone with a knee issue, is typically not a primary knee issue. Typically not. It's probably an ankle bone or just foot issue or a hip issue or both. And what gets stuck in the middle? The knee. It's kind of the weak and has the least amount of give. So it tells you I hurt. So compensations, I already talked about this, but basically compensations may feel fine at first. You shouldn't be aware of everything your body does in order to work. You shouldn't be aware of it. If you were aware of everything your body's doing in order to keep you going and alive and functioning, you'd go crazy. Your brain would, you think you're nuts now. You think you got stressed now. Try listening to every little part of your body talk to you. Impossible. So your body was built to survive and filter out information. There's filters in our brain and different ways in which it responds to nervous system stimulation. Certain amounts of stimulation, certain severities and intensities you're going to know about, but certain ones you're not, and for good reason. Because honestly, none of us, we would all freeze. I think we'd all just be frozen and we'd probably just, never survive as human beings. So compensation is going to happen so that you can keep doing what your brain or your conscious mind wants. But in turn, though, there is becoming deterioration or dysfunction that could lead to disease, ultimately. For runners, a lot of times that's going to be where you're going to have maybe plantar fasciitis. You might have IT band syndrome, a runner's knee, right? Shin splints, lower back pain eventually, All these things are compensations. Typically, none of these are just you overdid it so much. The analogy I talked about with cars out of alignment, you're still going to drive. You can still get where you need to go, but the tires are going to totally wear down and they're wearing unevenly. You can replace your tires. You can't replace parts of your body as easily as you might want to. And so your body does the same thing. The research shows that the spine and extremity joints, when they're restricted, can alter the gait mechanics and increased injury risk. So fixations or subluxations of these areas, which are areas that don't move well, are going to alter the body and definitely increase risk because it's causing that whole kinetic chain not to flow through movement. It's stuck, and so it has to move more above or below it. And those things are what cause injury. So get your tires aligned, very simply. When we talk about chiropractic care, it's not just about loosening up your back so you can just keep going. It's about understanding how the whole body works together. And when we're assessing you, there are chronic areas and tensions that are going to help us know that we need to look in different places. And we can do that usually pretty quickly, but you've never had an initial assessment, or you know someone who does run who's never had a structural postural assessment, even the most basic posture assessment, they should be checked until your body gets used to compensation. So we want to look at that whole system. So let's go through some of the common injuries, just to kind of be aware that what is an indication that your body is compensating and starting to wear out faster. Well, back pain, very simple, is kind of the end result usually of a lot of the things you're looking at above on this chart. So shin splints, that means that the muscles that attach to your shin that ultimately it's called insert down on your foot. This is where kind of the tendons end. In your foot is where they end. So if those tendons are being pulled and tightened and shortened, they're pulling at all the muscles attached to your shin, and that's what gives you shin splints. So you could wear all the things you want to try to protect these shin muscles and try to keep them flexed and stretched, but if you don't correct the foot mechanics that's probably pulling and deteriorating those, you didn't probably help the shin splints. Runner's knee is usually, I connect that with IT band syndrome, but ultimately on your legs, when you're running to keep you stable, your muscle is going to tighten down on both sides usually. And the IT band is almost just a big piece of fascia. It's like a big tendon. But in that tendon, it's there to kind of support too much movement. But if it gets too tight due to just too much work and misalignment, that tension's trying to protect something, but that tension eventually pulls at your knee, and that tendon pulls enough at your knee that your knee will start to have a significant amount of pain, usually on the outside of the knee, right on the outside of the knee, because this big band attaches right down here. If your band's tight enough, like mine was when I was younger, if I stretch, I would feel a nerve zing down my leg because that band goes right over a nerve. Now for me, that's where I started to have problems because it just got tighter and tighter. And what did I do? I didn't stretch. I didn't foam roll. I didn't do anything to loosen it up. I just ran because it felt fine when I was running. But eventually, it just stopped me. It felt like a knife going in my knee. And I would have thought I broke something. But it's just that tight muscle eventually saying, I've had enough and it needs to loosen up. Plantar fasciitis, I can tell you how many people have and suffer from this. And I would definitely say that all problems, in my experience over the years, show me that plantar fasciitis to runner's knee to everything has some components that would be way far from what you'd ever expect. I've had people going through menopause who have plantar fasciitis, and once they're done, their plantar fasciitis is better because their body's increased inflammation with hormones. You might be having a lot of stress going on. Your gallbladder might be having issues. As weird as it sounds, your gallbladder has reflexes on your IT band on the side of your leg. So there are so many layers and dysfunctions in your body that these symptoms show up that may have so many little levels and roots. So we may not have the magic the crystal ball to tell you all the stuff. But I can say that when your body's asking for your attention, it's telling you something's not right. And these things, though, can very much be compensations to putting even more stress on a braking system. So just pay attention to all these things. They all mean that you're compensating. What would be the proactive approach? An elite runner is going to know that you need to do things to take care of your body. You're going to have to prevent injury before it just comes up. It's not just about recovery, but also performance optimization. This is going to be the huge thing. So more and more professional runners have used chiropractic care because they know that taking that kinetic chain and improving its movement in as many areas as possible takes less stress on the whole system. Chiropractic care is going to allow the body to communicate more efficiently. So if there is dysfunction in the foot, the body's ability to compensate and to make you aware of that will happen a lot more when you're getting adjusted than if you're not. We help your brain and your body tune together. And when you're tuned in, you can be aware when things aren't working right. What else is going to be optimized when we're adjusting people? Range of motion typically improves. That means you have more give when you do have a challenge. Better neuromuscular firing. This is what I'm talking about. This is helping that nervous system work better. And definitely faster recovery. If your body's tuned in, it knows what it needs to send to that area to heal. If it's not tuned in, it may not send everything it needs, all the resources for the inflammatory response, the healing response. And the same goes for people who are sick. Why do people who are sick, we adjust more, not less? Because we help the body tune in where to send those white blood cells to more often. When it's tuned in, it works at a higher level. If someone was coming in specifically to improve their running, or to try to minimize stress, there's going to be a couple things we're going to do. We're definitely going to look at the posture. That will be a huge gauge because how you stand is probably how you run. And we're definitely going to do a motion exam. We're going to do a foot assessment. The adjustments are going to be part of that. And we're definitely going to try to work on some corrective exercises, stretches specifically for where we find imbalances due to the posture and the movement of the body. So a lot of these things are going to be ways that we assess and help with the runners focused. How often we would adjust most people? Well, initially, if there's a lot of dysfunction, you're going to have a decent amount of intensity to change what's been going on. So if you're running and you're like, hey, I got a race next week, fix this up, that may not be the time we try to correct anything. We may help improve a little bit of function in an ankle or the hips, but we're not talking about correcting things, because if we start to change a body that's been used to running 55% more on the right, you might run worse in a week or two or even a month or two. So knowing when and where to do these is important. Let's say we have someone function at their best level, then we're going to make sure that, number one, they're adjusted probably pre-race and definitely post-race. And when we're doing maintenance for most of these people, at least every 2 weeks would be wise if they're doing any kind of training, at least every 2 weeks. Monthly care is probably the minimum. I would tell you that it would be at least minimum. And this is probably if you've been worked on and adjusted for a long time, you could maybe do that. But I'd probably only say that for the younger kids because their bodies don't need as many adjustments. Prevention definitely is the key here. Athletes who receive regular preventative chiropractic care have 50% reduction in injuries. So when chiropractic care is done, there are so many benefits there. It's not the only thing, but it is a big and simple but effective way to kind of help the body reset so that we can keep moving forward. And that's kind of the key here when it comes to running injuries and things like that. What are some of the things that a runner should definitely be doing? Watch your footwear for sure. You're going to wear your shoes out after about 300 or 500 miles. They should be replaced. Cool down. Your body's warmed up. It's as loose as it's going to be. Loosen that puppy up, all right? And as young athletes, you just don't get well coached in this. You just go, right? We barely warmed up. You just go. Then you're done, you leave. Unfortunately, kids aren't being trained in the ways to take care of their body, like I said. Warming up in a dynamic way is good. Static stretching really is more for that end of the run. Moving, stretching. Most people, if you've watched professional athletes warm up anymore, you don't see too much just standing and stretching. They're moving. They're doing jumps or kicks, and there's lots of motion. You want dynamic warm-ups. You need to prepare the body for movement. So what are some of the self-checks? Where do you feel asymmetry? Look at your shoes. Turn your shoes over and see if they're wearing equally on both sides. Usually it's where you strike your heel. Probably could wear out more on one side or another. You might find the wear patterns, instead of it being underneath your big toe, maybe it's more in the middle of your foot. Or if the wear patterns on each shoe are different side to side, there's definitely asymmetry. Does one hip feel tighter? Can you move that as well? Does one shoulder feel higher or look higher? Those are ways to look at that. When you're compensating, you're going to probably feel some muscle that wants to cramp up or be tired. Those are the ones that are probably telling you, hey, I'm working too hard. There's something else that's weak or not working. Where have you had a history of injuries? Where are those telling you? Because those usually will show up, most people, knees or hip injuries. You guys have a good night. I'll see everyone later. Thanks for being here.